Like one of a school principal, Joe Nardulli.
We expect kids to be in school because that's where they belong, because this is the place that they learn, and this is the place that they're most safe.
He says every room is receiving supervision and teaching, at least at his school. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Later, where the two sides will meet with Mayor Garcetti at LA's City Hall at noon Thursday. A new battle brewing over data privacy. Organizations calling for a new federal agency to oversee and strengthen digital privacy protections, while a think tank backed by technology companies is advocating that all federal privacy plans be rolled back in favor of a new national privacy law. With hundreds of thousands of government workers either furloughed or not getting paid because of the shutdown, there's a new offer of something to help them cope.
PayItFurloughed.com allows folks to buy beer for furloughed workers in Washington, D.C. Creators of the site say they're frustrated by the negative impact the partial government shutdown is having on hundreds of thousands of Americans. While it will not take the place of a proper paycheck, they hope some free brewskis will boost spirits. Those who would like to donate can buy a beer at $7.50 or a full six-pack for $45 from one of 4 participating bars in the nation's capital. Workers over the age of 21 can cash in on the prepaid beverages with a federal ID. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Welcome to Subway's ad for the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich. How would you like it?
I would like it to predict my future.
My pleasure.
I see. Your future, a delicious moment in the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich with steak, jalapeno peppers, and Chipotle Southwest sauce. Wait, I foresee an imminent spell that is going to entice you. It's the crunchy bread with sunflower seeds, which provides an enchanting flavor. Don't miss it, and be mindful. The portal of the Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich is open for a limited time only. Subway, make it what you want.
Are you not getting paid what you're worth? Or not reaching your full potential at your job? If you're pioneering, adventurous, competitive, love talking to people, and want to earn $100,000 per year, sell cars on U.S. military bases with Military Auto Source. Start on Guam, stay on Guam, or move to Japan or Korea. To see if you qualify, visit maseastasiarecruiting.com. Military Auto Source, helping you reach your full potential.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
A well-regulated
and
militia.
Now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
Yeah, starting over. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, just like the right of the people to listen to and groove on tall tales shall not be infringed, at least as long as I have something to say about it. Today, though, is the day that we're going to make known to our international radio listening audience the personnel modification that I have mentioned in the past. So stay tuned, because you aren't going to want to miss it. I don't have a Second Amendment tidbit for today, as is my usual custom. I'll have one tomorrow for sure. But I'm going to go straight from here to Zemi Ikotny, and we're going to have to spend... Thank you, Real Joe Cruz. We're going to have to spend a fair amount of time on Zemi Ikotny today, as you'll understand if you have read today's Post editorial. Starting out with the Daily News, kind of along the feel-good lines, probably not going to get the blue star, but it's not going to get a 0 either. The University of Guam continues to be a shining example of the local government and the region's education institutions. Recently, its School of Business and Public Administration was granted a 7-year reaffirmation of accreditation for its Bachelor of Business Administration and Professional Master of Business Administration, according to a university news release. It's the maximum number of years possible for accreditation at one time. The School of Business and Public Administration is the most popular of the university's colleges and schools at UOG, with 530 students in its programs, according to UOG. The affirmation continues a history of accreditation dating back to 1997. This accreditation means continued assurance for our current and prospective business students that their education here at UOG rivals stateside and international business schools, said Annette Santos, the Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration. I congratulate the School of Business and Public Administration on its diligent efforts to maintain and innovate high-end business and management programs that are, once again, nationally recognized as such, said President Thomas W. Kreis. This underscores UOG's continued commitment of providing an excellent education to our students. Despite routinely being shorted on money, it's supposed to receive an allotments from the government of Guam. The university continues to find ways to expand offerings, upgrade and improve its facilities and campus, and maintain a high standard of excellence. It offers 34 different undergraduate degrees and 15 master's degrees, helping develop the island's leaders for the future. The university is our government's leader in sustainability practices. Well, I've gone off on that one more than once, so this is some pretty good news. I won't hold the sustainability practices thing against them in the face of all of this good news. And has worked to convert to sources of alternative energy. In recent years, it has resuscitated its athletics program and helps student athletes get valuable educations. The Marine Lab is an internationally recognized institution. The construction of the School of Engineering building is set to begin in February. We congratulate and commend the University of Guam for the re-accreditation of its School of Business and Public Administration and for its continuing commitment to excellence and to our island community. Well, okay, not exactly cutting edge, but at least it didn't come from USA Today. It's a home-cooked editorial, and I suppose it's good once in a while to have some good news to write about. Sometimes it seems like that's quite a chore. Now we go from there to the Post. And there's a lot to chew on here in the Post editorial. The title of the Post editorial is Bureau of Women's Affairs Needs to Rebrand, Make Mission Inclusive. The Bureau of Women's Affairs in the government of Guam had not been on the public's radar in recent memory until Wednesday. The reason that it hadn't been on the public's radar is because it was dead. Lulian Guerrero's administration announced the hiring of Jane Flores, who led community and public relations efforts for Guam Community College and is a veteran award-winning Guam journalist, as the director of the Bureau. Flores is probably one of the more qualified nominees in the new administration, so we congratulate her for her new public role. However, we'd like to suggest the legislature and the administration work together to tweak the Bureau's name and mission to advocate to more people, including Guamanians who are economically disadvantaged, new migrants who may be marginalized due to language barriers and lack of local ties, workers regardless of gender who experience discrimination in the workplace, and those with various forms of disabilities. Well, that's a lot. Yeah. Sounds like government. It does. And perhaps instead of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, this could be called the Bureau of Social Engineering. Yeah, and rather than being the director of the Bureau, Jane could be the chief social justice warrior if this editorial suggestion is taken up. The Bureau of Women's Affairs was created in 1991. It was 27 years ago. It's time to keep it current by making its advocacy more inclusive. The legislature that led to the creation of the Bureau of Women's Affairs states that Guam's large female population has been without adequate representation in the government of Guam, and the members of the legislature recognize that such representation is vitally needed in the various political, social, cultural, and economic structures and activities of the territory. And among the Bureau's duties are to formulate policies to eliminate gender discrimination throughout the government of Guam and the private sector. Eliminate gender discrimination. Would that mean that we should have quotas, like we should have as many men in the legislature as we have women in the legislature? Well, we'll dig into this a little farther. To study and make recommendations on issues of particular concern to women and on widening the access of persons of both genders. Now, this is politically incorrect. Of course, this is 1991. They didn't know in 1991 that there were more than two genders.
They didn't admit to it.
Yeah, they didn't know that in 1991. No, I don't think they knew it. I think it's just recently that we've discovered that there are more than two genders, according to some experts on the subject. There are a host of issues that the future Bureau could champion, but the need to be gender-specific in its advocacy is from a bygone era. There's a need for marginalized members of our community to have a voice through an advocate in the local government. But as Flores will probably agree, the scope of this advocacy should expand to beyond women only. The Bureau needs to be a champion for more members of the community. Leon Guerrero made history as the first woman to become governor of Guam. It's just one of the many signs that times have changed. I looked up the statute that created the Bureau of Women's Affairs. It was Public Law 21-23. I think there were 5 or 6 women in that particular legislature.
Yes.
And I have the statute referred to an executive order. The statute said that a board of, sort of like a board of directors, should be created pursuant to Executive Order 87-14. Well, I looked up Executive Order 87-14, and it dealt with the use of school buses. So I hunted around, and I found out that Executive Order 88-14, it relates to the establishment of the Bureau of Women's Affairs. And here are some of the highlights. It shall be headed by a person within the executive branch appointed by the governor. So could the Bureau of Women's Affairs be be supervised by a male? Interesting question. Now I'm going to stop just for a second here, and I'm going to make that important announcement that I mentioned earlier, because I want a little help with this particular topic. So I mentioned a little earlier that we were going to make a personnel change here on Tall Tales, and the personnel change is this, that on Tuesday I'm going to take off on a well-deserved vacation, and I won't be back for over a month. Now don't ask me where I'm going to go, because it's a matter of national security. And as much as I would like to tell you where I'm going to go, I don't think the Department of Homeland Security would allow it. If I mention where I was going, they might confiscate my passport, so I have to stay here. So I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to go. But I do have someone who is going to take over the reins of Tall Tales during my absence.
You're not going to take me with you, Bob?
Well, I probably should, Real Joe Cruz, but but I owe so much to our international radio listening audience and your rapidly developing fan base. I can just imagine what some of the posts are going to look like here. Bob, it's okay if you go. Just leave the real Joe Cruz behind. This cult of personality has been developing lately. So with no further ado, let's have that drum roll. And your guest host is going to be none other than Daryl Taggarty.
That's right.
Let's give him a big hand out there in our international radio listening audience. Yeah. Okay, so actually today, Daryl is going to audition for the part today and tomorrow and Monday. I have enough confidence in him to think that he's going to pass muster with the Tall Tales think tank board of directors, and that he will be assuming the reins or taking over the controls solo on Tuesday. So I would ask that you treat him as well as you treat me, but I'm hoping that maybe we could do a little bit better than that.
Well, do I have to be curmudgeon-y?
You
Curmudgeonous?
must.
Do I have to be a curmudgeon?
You must be you must be a curmudgeon. Otherwise, you got a button that you push that turns off the microphone for any curmudgeon-like comments, right, Real Joe Cruz? Yeah. Okay. So that's how we're going to do it. So Daryl is going to be riding shotgun with me for a couple days here, and he'll be taking over on Tuesday. So going back to the Bureau of Women's Affairs, the Bureau of Women's Affairs shall also consist of a board of advisors to be appointed by the governor of Guam, which shall be composed of 7 members, no fewer than 2 female and 2 male members, in accordance with the laws of Guam that govern the composition of boards. So that would be a real plush assignment to be one of the 2 male members on the Bureau of Women Affairs Board of Advisors. I suspect that now that this is known to our international radio listening audience, applications will be coming in from all over the island, and probably the Northern Marianas too, to take over such a weighty position as that. The Bureau of Women's Affairs shall be responsible for closely monitoring issues and legislation relating to women, and shall be further responsible for advising the governor of Guam of said issues, along with recommendations for actions which may need to be taken. So I'm just going to say, come right out and say it. This is one of the dumber ideas that I've heard in a long, long time. This is the second government agency that was basically put out of action in the name of economy. The other one was the Agana Redevelopment Authority. So now we have resurrected 2 agencies that we had been shed of for quite some time. And of course that means salaries, staff, the whole thing. It's going to cost us more money. This comes on the heels of what we were told was this dire financial crisis. Our new director of the Bureau of Budget and Management Affairs, as you were the Bureau of Budget and Management, Mike Carlson, Lester Carlson, has told the Department of Education that they've got to cut their spending by over $3 million because we're going to be that short in the budget. So where does all of the money come from to establish these new agencies? As Lester found a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or something like that? Is it really necessary to resurrect these agencies? Is it really necessary to put a couple more people, actually more than a couple more people on the payroll? Or is this, I hate to say it, is this one of those, well, we didn't know where else to put them? So, you know, we had to resurrect those 2 agencies because we didn't have any other place for them. So let's see why we need a Bureau of Women's Affairs. And start out with a proposition that women are underrepresented in our government. And I think that was kind of the moving force in this executive order and behind that bill, that, you know, that we needed more women needed, there needed to be more, something like parity between the number of men and women in the government of Guam. Now, of course, this is completely in line with the left's agenda of identity politics. The idea behind identity politics is to make sure that at every turn people are separated into small identity groups, and that there's a hierarchy amongst the identity groups, and advancing the issues, the wants, the needs, the grievances of the identity groups is a way for that group to gain leverage in the public square. So one of the largest identity groups is women. In a way, I guess it's the largest because there are more women on the island than there are men. So let's see how the women have fared here recently. I think, first of all, probably we need to have more women in the legislature. Let's see, how many times, Real Joe Cruz, have we read stories or been told or been informed that the women now form a majority of the members of the legislature?
Countless, sir. Countless
times. 10 of 15 are women. So I guess what we need then is we need a Bureau of Women's Affairs, Daryl, because to take it from 10 up to, say, 12 or 13, that would be a little better, right?
It may be that we need the Women's Affairs Bureau so that we can make sure that they don't overreach and upset the overall. We don't want to be accusing them of doing the same thing that men did.
Well, that isn't the way identity politics works, though, Daryl. You know, it's impossible for one of these groups that have been the subject of what's the word I'm looking for here?
Injustice?
Injustice. Yeah, it's impossible for them to overreach, right? Only those in power can overreach.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about justice anymore. We're talking about power.
And we've never been talking about anything but power. We've never been talking about anything but power. That's what this entire discussion has been about. That's what the Bureau of Women's Affairs was about, et cetera. It's not about equality or equity or anything like that. It's about power. So now that we have 10 women of 15 in the legislature, we have a female speaker, not the first female speaker. We have a female governor. What we need more females in the judiciary. Oh, wait a minute.
Chief Justice.
We've got a Chief Justice that's a female, and a couple of the trial court justices are female. Washington Rep. No, we've done that. Public law. No, we've done that too. So,
well, you see, the Women's Bureau has done its job.
Well, if it's done its job, then isn't it time to mothball it, to decommission it?
I don't know. Maybe happy days are here again.
Well, it is a Democrat administration.
That's right.
Yeah. So, if there ever were an injustice, I would submit that the current situation suggests that injustice no longer exists. But the way the dynamics of the left and government work, once you see a problem, it's not necessary to solve the problem. It's only necessary to create the government agency that you say will solve the problem. Whether the problem ever gets solved or not doesn't matter. Even if the problem is, in fact, solved, you still got to keep that agency. And as the Post, which ordinarily writes some pretty good stuff, has a tendency to list to the port side from time to time. They've bought right into it. Well, you know, we've got a Bureau of Women's Affairs, but they need to do something. They need to broaden their scope.
Well, aren't there women in high position in both newspapers?
There are indeed.
Rindradi and...
the two of the three top ones at the Post, yes. Mindy and Gaynor at the Post. Well, let me see what this is. Tom, right? Okay. Hi, Tom.
Hi. How are you, gentlemen?
Are you going to be applying for a position on that board at the Bureau of Women's Affairs, Tom?
No, I am going to force our leadership to create the Bureau of Men's Affairs because it seems like they're discriminating against us men. If they're going to have a Bureau of Women's Affairs, they better have a Bureau for Men's Affairs also.
Seems appropriate.
We're going to have to file a suit for discrimination.
There's a certain symmetry in what you say, isn't there, Tom?
Yeah, and why are these employees of ours do the hiring themselves when don't they understand that we the people, this is our government, we the people are the ones that are supposed to do the hiring. We the people are the ones supposed to be creating these agencies because they are everybody in the work for the government right now, they are public servants. They're supposed to serve us, the public, because this is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Well, we would hope so, Tom, but apparently it's the government right now of the identity groups for the identity groups, right?
Right, and they derive their power from the consent of the governed. Am I correct?
Well, that's the theory that the Declaration of Independence is based on, certainly, yes.
So, they should, I think it's up to the legislature to create a law, make a law that any new proposed agency that's supposed to be created should have a public hearing also.
Well, this one did have a public hearing back in 1991, Tom, when that law was enacted. But for the last 10 years or so, there had not been a Bureau of Women's Affairs because the governor never saw fit to appoint anyone to it, and perhaps by default we got to where we really belong, because there is no need for a Bureau of Women's Affairs, and there hasn't been for quite some time, if there ever was, and I'm not sure there ever was.
Because like you were saying, is it necessary to have this Bureau of Women's Affairs? Why is it necessary to have it? That's why they should have a public hearing to get a public comment about it, and we, the public, should be asking, why is it necessary for you to create a Bureau of Women's Affairs?
Well, perhaps what we need is a heroic senator, could be of either sex, to introduce a bill to repeal the law that created the Bureaus of Women's Affairs, and the basis for the repeal would be, we're there. We don't need it anymore.
Right. If there is already a law that allowed that creation of that bureau, but yet they haven't implemented it, they haven't hired people to run it, so that means they don't really need it.
Agreed, Tom. Agreed. Well, I'm glad to find that someone here agrees with me. I think Daryl probably agrees with me.
I agree, and I agree with Tom. I think that it should be reviewed by the legislature.
Well, you're probably going to be getting a chance to talk to Tom from time to time as you take over. Tom was one of our better callers, right, Tom?
Yes.
All right. Well, talk to you guys later.
Thanks,
Thank you, Tom.
So we're going to listen to Dave Brubeck's Take 5 for a minute, a little John Gibson, and then we'll come back to this.
John Gibson, digging up history. The frantic rush to bring life-saving medicine to sick kids led to how we all know you say mush to a dog. That story after this. Let's talk heirloom sheets and towels from Redland Cotton in Alabama. First, the family farm growing the finest cotton in the world. The spinning, the looming, every step made in America, right down to the cutting and sewing. Sheets designed from a long-lost 1920s weave. The softest, most comfortable, longest-lasting sheets you've ever slept on. The Redland family dedicated to America and linens you'll treasure. Check out redlandcotton.com for America's linen. redlandcotton.com. January 1925 in Alaska, word came that children in frozen Nome, Alaska, needed the serum for diphtheria. The serum was 700 miles away in Anchorage. No way to fly or take a boat. The governor ordered dog sleds to deliver the medicine. Telegraph messages set up 18 different dog teams along the route. They passed the medicine from team to team through blizzards, across frozen bays, over mountains to the sick kids. 127 hours after they started, the lead dog Balto led his team and his driver out of a long Alaska night in Nome with the medicine. And the life-saving mission lives on today as a yearly race along the same route we know as the Iditarod. I'm John Gibson, digging up history.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,500 by calling Family Finance in Higanya at 475-4545, Upper Tuon 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959.
Now, back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
So this whole exercise is so typical of the left. And what is it that Rush Limbaugh always says, Real Joe Cruz? Doesn't he say, "The left always screws up everything it touches"? Isn't that what he says?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, when he's not talking about himself, right?
True.
Yeah. Well, this is another example. And the way it works is this. You start out, and probably at the time the Bureau of Women's Affairs was created, this wasn't the game plan, but it is now. And you start out with some public pretending. You come up with these gaslighting positions to get people to pretend things that aren't true. But to not engage in the pretending makes you something of a social outcast. Pretending that one man can marry and can enter into a marriage with another man and call it a marriage. As Daryl and I were talking about a little earlier, the fact that there are no longer just two sexes. I don't remember how many there are. In fact, probably it's a moving target. It would depend on who's doing the counting and when you do the counting, right?
That's right. In fact, the documents on Women's Affairs proves it. It is a moving target. Back then, they didn't exist, although everyone understood that there was some kind of a spectrum in the way people live their lives. But as far as the rules of government and how we make our laws and the conventions of language, there were two sexes or two genders.
That's what we thought then, but now we're pretending that there are not two sexes. We even had Fernando Esteves introduce a bill in the legislature that would carry the pretending all the way to an official document issued by the Bureau of Vital Statistics, so that a person could get a chit from a doctor and go to court and get a court order changing their, Real Joe Cruz, not his or not her, but changing their sex on their birth certificate, as though a court could actually change someone's sex, and as though a birth certificate is still an important, relevant document if it contains this state-ordered pretending. Fortunately, that bill didn't pass, but that's an example of this sort of prompted pretending that everyone must enter into. And one of the pretending, some of the pretending that's required is that there's really no difference at all between men and women. They're just exactly the same, except I guess the only difference is how a person feels. A person could be born with one set of plumbing, but feel like as though they had the other kind of plumbing.
And they can. But why does the government need to issue a document that says you are now a card carrying this or that?
It's part of the pretending. So the myth is, the mythology is that men and women are the same, but the reason that women haven't advanced as far as men is purely because of social and cultural impediments placed in their path by guess who? By men.
By men.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then the only way to fix it is you've got to get the government involved to cure this injustice. You've got to have a government department and all of the things that come with that in order to cure this oppression, because the oppressors suffering this, the oppressed suffering this oppression can never remedy the situation themselves. Therefore, you need to have a government do it. And in order to fix all of the oppression that occurs, that has been enacted on various marginalized groups, you've got to have a really big government to solve all these problems. And this editorial is a classic example of that. We started out with the idea that women were the oppressed, that they're every bit as capable as men, every bit as able to carry on important governmental and business functions. The only thing that was holding them back was this sociological or societal and cultural oppression. So we needed to have a Bureau of Women's Affairs to combat that. And now that we're there, we can't just say, well, it's over, we're going to declare victory, run up our banners, and save some money. Now we've got to repurpose the Bureau of Women's Affairs to find some more injustices to deal with.
I was so entertained by this editorial for that very reason. To me, the only way I could connect the dots was it must pay well enough, better than if she had been appointed to a staff position at Adelup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because it is a staff position at Adelup.
It really is. Yeah, the bureau is located in the governor's office, and it may very well be that Jane would be carried on the payroll as a special assistant.
That's right, and she is a very capable person, woman or not. Mm-hmm. She's a very capable person, and I'm happy to see that she's in government. She's been in government, but in a new position. But why the resurrection of a dead letter agency?
Well, as per my explanation, that's the way the left works.
Yeah, I'm a member of the left, and this is nonsense.
Yeah, well, it's like Rush Limbaugh says, the left screws up everything it touches. Yeah, so if looking at it logically, if there were an oppressed group of people here on the island called women in 1991, by any objective measurement, that oppression is over. So it would seem to me that a little ceremony at Adelup, a decommissioning ceremony for the Bureau of Women's Affairs, saying we did something and it worked and it's over. Mm-hmm. But instead, the editorial wants to repurpose the Bureau of Women's Affairs.
To give it a new mission.
To give it a new mission. So one of the tenets of tall talesism is this, Daryl, that if there is a problem with the government and the way it operates, you cannot fix that problem by creating another government agency to fix it. It's a tautology, because the agency that you create to fix the first problem will become a problem itself. So problems within the government are ordinarily only cured by public pressure, not coming from within the government. Mm-hmm. I hope that that makes a certain amount of sense to you.
It makes a great deal of sense to me. From what I've been doing in government over the years, some of the most exciting times have been to go through the Guam law and find out which function of the government was supposed to address the problem in the first place. Never mind the one that may be identified as the solution to the problem, the bureaucracy that's supposed to address the problem. Find out who was supposed to have addressed it already before.
Yeah.
Or maybe it doesn't need to be addressed by government. It just needs to be stated as a public policy, and the government doesn't need to do anything except enforce the law.
So I start out with the idea that if there's a problem in government, you can't fix the problem in government by creating another government agency. I also have to take this opportunity to contrast my ideas of the ideals, my idea of the ideals of the left versus the right. On the right, we think that it's the government's job to secure and protect the individual rights of the citizens and provide a kind of a watchman-type government, police protection, fire protection,
absolutely,
etc. The left, on the other hand, takes the position that the job of the government is to make people's lives better. And
if you would just do the first one, if you would just execute the laws evenly, without favor, across gender lines and across, social status lines, ability to earn money, if all the laws are enforced equally, then you won't have to be making people's lives better. Opportunity will be there, and people will find ways to live their lives.
Well, taking my hard-nosed conservative position, the only people that can make people's lives better are the people themselves. The government is not going to be able to make anybody's life better. And I think we could take a look at all of the entitlement programs that we've been stuck with since the Great Society as a pretty good example of what I'm talking about.
Actually, in the 20 years prior to the Great Society, one of the ways that you could make lives better here on Guam was to create a middle class using employment, government employment, because there was such a small private sector. Because construction was all outsourced.
Yeah.
And so what happened? There was the government of Guam. And that was created, and that was the only other sector. There was a private sector, which was small and growing slowly, but it was the government of Guam and federal employment, both governments.
Right.
Until after Typhoon Karen. And we started thinking about tourism, and even at that, it didn't jump up until 68, and then we're already in the Great Society.
Right, right.
And it was President Nixon who wrote all the regulations for the Great Society and put them in place.
Yeah, I don't even need to get to Watergate to find a lot of reasons to criticize Nixon. So, yeah, that's and again, here we are with this idea of the Governor Leon Guerrero, who is, by the way, a female. If you didn't know that, the first female governor of Guam is Lou Leon Guerrero.
To make sure, if anybody's just tuning in for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to make it clear that we're under the regime of female leadership, not only in the executive branch of our government, but at the legislature and the courts.
And, of course, after the election, you couldn't pick up a newspaper or watch a TV newscast without having that lesson repeated over and over again. Well, first time we've got a female majority in the legislature and a female governor, and on and on and on.
But do I feel oppressed?
You should. If you don't, you're just not getting it, Darryl.
I'm trying.
Yeah. So
does that take 5?
That's we're coming up on that big halftime show that you enjoy so much.
Yes, but we still have a few minutes. There's
yeah, we got 10 more minutes.
One more break, and then
one more short break. Yeah.
There's a reason every day a Guam homeowner is getting a solar system installed by Micronesia Renewable Energy. It's because MRE is the most trusted name in solar. With more solar energy solutions than any other solar company on island, homeowners have a choice to go solar for zero money down or take the path to ownership. Whichever way, it keeps our skies blue and your pockets green. And with the most experienced solar technicians and an energy production guarantee, there are no worries. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
So, short break and 10 more minutes, and it'll be time for that big halftime show that you've all been looking forward to.
Yeah.
This will be Daryl's first halftime show, sitting up here in the press box where he can see the entire show. He's got his own earphones. Probably he'll need them when the cannons start to roar at the end of that big halftime show.
I'm looking forward to the marching band. You know how they synchronize on the field, and you can see it best from the box.
Right.
And I'm in the box today, and I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Okay, so so in order to make this all work, then you have to buy into the idea that women, that identity group, has been oppressed, and that the oppression can only be cured by a government agency. And even when you have absolute objective proof that there's no oppression, since the government agency is there, you can't just disband it and declare a victory dividend. You've got to find something else, some other target of oppression for that agency to work on. So I had a couple of suggestions here. Yesterday, I talked about Kelly Marsh versus the doctrine of worthiness. Kelly Marsh was recently elected to the legislature, and she is the chairman of the committee that has jurisdiction over, let's see, self-determination. And historically, the chairman of that committee, or its reasonable facsimile thereof, has been a member of the Decolonization Commission at the governor's office. And of course, I refer to the Decolonization Commission as the Commission for Chamorro Independence, because you could call it a hippopotamus, but it's what it does, it really calls. And in the last 4 or 5 years, that's about the only issue that it's taken up, is Chamorro independence. But Kelly Marsh, even though she was elected to the legislature, was deemed not worthy of being on the Commission on Self-Determination, and she was called out by a certain Lisa Natividad, who said that Dr. Marsh needs to re-examine her place in this battle for self-determination. I think it's absolutely one thing I would applaud her for, as well as being a real supporter. She has always been very much a supporter of our work, and through the lens of settler colonialism, she needs to reflect on where she is and where is the appropriate positioning for herself to contribute. So maybe Jane can concentrate on settler colonialists here, because perhaps being a settler colonist puts you in that oppressed category. Because if you are a settler colonist, obviously you can't sit on that commission, and you can't sign up for a couple of the other things that the government does. So doesn't that sound like oppression, Daryl?
Well, it could be. It could be. It could call into question the entire, all the activities of the commission.
Yeah.
If you've got someone of the favored or the colonizing class on that board, on that commission.
So I get a kick.
You know, what she could do is she could just ask somebody else to be attending in her place. Since she's got the committee, that anything that the commission comes up with would have to come before her committee. And as chair, she can control that. She can amend it, throttle it, sit on it. And so is Lisa saying that Dr. Marsh is not qualified to be in that position or even cast a vote in the legislature on the question?
Well, she's saying the commission because she views the world through a lens of settler colonialism.
Right. But somehow, whatever the mechanism was that brought Senator Marsh, Kelly Marsh, into the position of chairing that committee that would then place her on the commission. You see, whatever that mechanism was, then that mechanism is flawed if she's not qualified to sit on that commission.
Well,
what's the standard we're going to use here? Is it
the standard, and once again, is identity politics. So the fact that you are in one identity group doesn't necessarily mean that you will have favor in another identity group. Lisa Natividad said that Kelly Marsh's being on that commission would be an example of recolonization. So I just want to pick up on this idea of settler colonialism for a second.
Yeah.
And, the rules of discourse and debate nowadays are that if you're in a discussion about the political status of the island, the first person who uses the word colonialism gets to pick up the marbles and declare victory, because that's what it's all about. If a person is guilty of colonialism, he forfeits all of his rights in any discussion or debate. And to call someone a settler colonialist, it's not the same as some of the other pejoratives that we don't use anymore, right?
Well, we don't use them on the air.
That's right. But it has the same aura. Oh,
yes.
He's a settler colonialist, right?
Yes.
And according to, I'm sure, Lisa's definition, that's what I am. I'm a settler colonialist.
And some may think I am.
I suppose.
I've been
accused.
I've been accused, and I've been, painted with that brush.
Yeah.
By people who don't bother scratching below the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've never really had a chance to get into this, but I've got a few minutes here until the big halftime show starts. But I think if you wanted to hang a title on me and explain the reason why I'm here, it's not because I wanted to be a settler colonialist. It's more along the lines of missionary zeal. Because when I was over 50 years ago, when I was a senior in college, I had the wanderlust. I wanted to go someplace far away, and I wrote letters all over the world, even here. When I got the material from Guam, I looked at it and said, I don't think I want to go there. The pay is really, really low. So I kind of forgot about it. And then one day, a recruiter came to my campus. So I figured, well, I got nothing else to do. I'll go down and see what he has to say. And he had slides. I don't know if you...
Oh, yes.
A lot of our younger audience wouldn't know what I'm talking about. What's that, something like a PowerPoint? Yeah. So anyhow, he had a slideshow that he put on, and I looked at it, and I said, wow, that looks pretty interesting. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad, I don't have to make $1 million my first year out of college.
So this is a teacher recruiter, not a military recruiter.
No, a teacher recruiter. A government of Guam recruiter.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Do you remember his name?
Let me finish my story. Okay. So, we had a chat about it, and he said, Mr. Klitzkie, I really hope you can come because we really need teachers. Now, this was in the early 60s, and the university was not, it was a college, and it wasn't even close to cranking out teachers enough to satisfy the local demand, right? So in those days, the government of Guam brought out literally plane loads of teachers, as you're well aware, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so when he said that, I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. You know, you really need teachers. I'll give it a shot. And that's how I came. So I came and I taught for a couple years, and at the end of my 2-year contract, I got a letter signed personally by the governor of Guam, Governor Manny Guerrero. Will you please sign another contract? And that happened 3 more times. Would you please sign another contract? And then in around 1970, the idea was to try to get contract teachers to convert to local hire. And I'll pick this up after we have enjoy that big halftime show from the press box.
Yes, great. Looking forward to it.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 1350 AM, 93.3 FM, and 104.3 HD3.
They're talking about it. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. As the federal government shutdown reaches day 27, there are efforts underway to find a solution.
A bipartisan group of lawmakers known as the House Problem Solvers Caucus met with the president at the White House. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders called the meeting constructive, with both having a good understanding of what the other wants. But there is still no sign an end is near, even as a separate bipartisan group of senators is urging the president to agree to a 3-week deal to open government and continue negotiating border security.
The shutdown now threatening the president's State of the Union message, scheduled to be delivered to a joint session of Congress a week from Tuesday night. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi writing the president, suggesting he delay the speech. Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer agrees.
What is the State of the Union? The government is closed because of President Trump. If it continues to be closed on the 29th, I think it's a good idea to delay it till the government is open.
Is the president's legal team tweaking its collusion denials? Attorney Rudy Giuliani telling CNN's Chris Cuomo on Wednesday night.
I never said there was no collusion between the campaign.
Giuliani insisting he's only said there was no collusion with Russian operatives by the president during the presidential campaign. President Trump has repeatedly denied any collusion by him or his campaign. Federal agents say they have thwarted a planned terror attack on the nation's capital.
Joint Terrorism Task Force partners, which is led by the FBI, arrested Hasher Taheb, 21 years old, of Cumming, Georgia, after a thorough investigation into his plans to attack federal buildings.
U.S. Attorney B.J. Pack says Taheb was arrested in Georgia after trading his car to undercover agents for what he thought were explosives. They say he had plans for a rocket attack on the White House. ISIS says the suicide bomber who detonated himself in front of a Syrian restaurant Wednesday was one of theirs. The blast killed 2 American soldiers, a defense contractor, and a civilian. This is Fox News.
Chili's 3 for Me menu just got bigger. We're giving you more choices for the same great price. For just $15, you can get a beverage, salad, and an entree. First, choose from a refreshing Coca-Cola, iced tea, or Heineken on draft. Then enjoy a house salad and select your choice of a mouth-watering entree, like our half-rack ribs, Cajun chicken pasta, old-timer burger, personal chicken fajitas, or the flavorful margarita flatbread. So hurry in today and enjoy our Chili's 3 for Me menu for just $15. Available for a limited time. Chili's, more life happens here.
Laddystone Entertainment and the stations of Choice Broadcasting invite you to meet the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant contestants with the official meet and greet on Sunday, January 20th at Icon. Doors open at 6 and it's $15 at the door, and it comes with your first drink. Get to know your favorite curvy contestants with the fabulous fashion show by Figure 8. It's the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant. Brought to you by Pitbull Empire, Figure 8 Boutique, local promos, Sidelines Bar and Grill, The Hive, Bongdozas, and Icon. For more information, check out Laddystone Entertainment on Facebook. It's the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant.
Back to the bargaining table in the L.A. teachers' strike. Both the schools and its striking teachers' union agreeing to meet at noon Wednesday with L.A.'s Mayor Eric Garcetti as a mediator. 30,000 teachers in the L.A. Unified School District have been off their jobs since Monday. Britain's Prime Minister scoring a victory in her Brexit battle, winning a no-confidence vote in Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that this House has expressed its confidence in the government tonight.
Theresa May's administration defeating a challenge from the opposition party here. May now pledging to
continue to work to deliver on the solemn promise we made to the people of this country to deliver on the result of the referendum and leave the European Union.
But the Prime Minister still faces fights ahead. Her plan for Britain's divorce from the EU was thrown out by lawmakers on Tuesday. The UK is due to leave in 10 weeks. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
Michigan State University's interim president, John Engler, resigning amid backlash over his comments about the sexual assault victims of former sports doctor Larry Nassar. Engler saying that some of the victims were enjoying their time in the spotlight. Taking care of patients is taking a toll on doctors, according to a new study.
Doctor burnout has become so widespread that 44% feel stressed to the point of considering leaving the field altogether. The annual report by Medscape, owned by WebMD, finds 1 in 7 has considered suicide. The survey of 15,000 doctors finds women more affected than men. And it's not the patients, it's the paperwork and the data input and data codes required since medical records went digital. About 45 minutes per patient, leaving only a few minutes for the actual patient FaceTime. A third say it all makes them find themselves getting exasperated with their patients. Urologists and neurologists are the most stressed. The most happy on the job? Plastic surgeons. Therese Crowley, Fox News.
I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,500 by calling Family Finance in Hagåtña at 475-4545, Upper Tuon 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959.
There's a reason every day a Guam homeowner is getting a solar system installed by Micronesia Renewable Energy. It's because MRE is the most trusted name in solar. With more solar energy solutions than any other solar company on island, homeowners have a choice to go solar for zero money down or take the path to ownership. Whichever way, it keeps our skies blue and your pockets green. And with the most experienced solar technicians and an energy production guarantee, there are no worries. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
It's exciting, isn't it, Daryl?
Yes.
It's one of the greatest halftime shows anywhere in the country.
Here we have it, right
we
here.
have it right here. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my little autobiographical sketch in a minute here, but I suppose I ought to take just a second to let one of our callers once again tell me that I don't know Jack. Right, Jack?
Good afternoon, Bob. Good afternoon, Daryl. How you guys doing?
Fair to partly cloudy, Jack.
It's the white male privilege radio station.
There you go.
Yeah, I had to go there, right? I had to go there.
I should wear one of those little.
If you ever have a chance, look up on YouTube. It happened like less than 24 hours ago. Arena Martin, a CNN analyst, was questioned by David Webb, not the David Webb that we know, but David Webb, a radio host. And you should take a listen to it. It's about identity politics. It's less than a minute long, and it's very hilarious. I won't give the punchline. I won't give any what the details is, but you need to watch it for yourself. But I just wanted to call in and say, you're speaking about why men, or is the pay or salary discrepancies between men and women. A lot of the facts get washed away. Men in generally work longer hours. They hold jobs that are very, very dangerous that may pay more, such as an oil rig, or if you ever get a chance to watch the world's dangerous catch, or ice road truckers.
Right.
They hold positions that normally women wouldn't hold, and it's not because of lack of diversity. It's just because they're dangerous jobs. And, men in general tend to move to where the jobs are. And there's a lot of data out there that supports this.
Isn't that part of this toxic masculinity that we're supposed to be combating, right? This ability to take dangerous jobs?
Yeah, and so, they try to level the playing field by letting women in. And, all they ask is that you just qualify to do the job, like being a fireman or being a police person. And they do qualify, but in general, just generally speaking, men work longer hours. They take dangerous jobs that may pay more, and in general, they are more susceptible to, like you did, Bob, just pick up and move to where the job is, while women do not. And the data is out there, and it will support that. But I just wanted to also ring in about, do you guys eat eggs?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, so you know the difference between white eggs and brown eggs?
I give up, Jack. What's the difference between white eggs and brown eggs?
White eggs are colonized eggs. So I thought you would know that.
You crack me up with your egg jokes, Jack. Or, excuse me, that was a pretty good yoke, Jack.
But anyways, I'm on my way home, and just wanted to give in a ring, and I really like you guys, this tandem that you have going. I just want to make sure that you made sure that Daryl didn't come in with his pair of scissors there. I don't want him to be cutting up things.
I know which way to point my scissors.
Daryl is always right on the cutting edge with his scissors, real there, Jack.
So I just wanted to say that I like this feedback between you two, and keep up the good work. And you got a lot of people out there listening.
Thank
If you have a chance, look at that video.
What is it again?
It's 1 minute long.
What's the host's name?
It's a CNN analyst, Arena Martin, and David Webb is doing this interview, and it's just about a minute long, and it plays into your theme right there.
Okay.
And I hope you have a chance to look at it. And it just happened less than 24 hours ago, and it's not the David Webb that we know. It's David Webb. He has a talk show host on Freedom Patriot.
And he's another right-thinking guy, huh?
But you'd be surprised.
All right.
This is like your radio show. It's talk radio. It's call-in. But you'd be surprised about the dialogue. It's less than a minute long, and I hope. They cut it to a minute just to get to the point. So, anyways, give it a chance, and I know that you guys would enjoy it. But you two have a great day. It's it's nice to listen to a white privileged male radio station. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Right is right, no matter what color it is, and wrong is wrong, no matter how many's on that side. But I support your format there, and keep up the good work.
As always, Jack, it's been a little slice of heaven, so thanks again. That is Jack.
That's Jack.
Yeah.
Love his calls, and he always laughs. A good laugh. A laugh with.
Well, the host of Tall Tales does have a sense of humor, so it's not totally outside the realm of possibility that one of the callers might laugh.
But he laughs every time.
He does. He does indeed.
It's a good laugh to hear.
It is. It's an invigorating laugh. Okay, so we're talking about identity politics, and I'll see if I can find this when I get home tonight. Mm-hmm. It's always nice to find kindred spirits wherever they might be. But going back again to this idea of settler colonialists, I don't know that name calling is a way to advance any particular cause.
No.
And as even Bavacqua pointed out, Bavacqua said he's kind of glad that Kelly Marsh is picking up the cudgel here as a way of explaining things. And if I were to give advice, which I'm not, but I would point something out that the Lisa Natividads of the island are not gaining any momentum with probably an awful lot of people on the island with this settler colonialist labeling.
Well, it also doesn't help to tag that label onto someone who was just elected and seems to have be really familiar with the history and the arguments.
Yeah.
Who could help Ms. Natividad's position if she were to treat her as an ally.
So that's, and see, this is the insidiousness of identity politics in general, because when you come right down to it, you're left with this. Si Kelly Marsh na gustungo, I costumbrin tomorrow, and I tautaguan, lo baba I palaon sa ti tomorrow grit. And that's really what Lisa's saying.
That's right. And it's so simplistic, and it's, where can it go from there?
Yeah.
Except in an unproductive direction.
Yeah.
For her and for everyone else.
Well, it certainly would give anyone pause if he's listening to Michael Bavacqua's independent Guam rhetoric. If Lisa Natividad is a spokesman for what I think would be the Socialist Republic of Guam, I wonder what it would be like to live here. It's immoral,
Well, you can draw some inferences from the way people express themselves.
Yeah.
And you've heard me say, I like hearing what Mike Bavacqua has to say, because you need to hear what he has to say in order to understand where he's going and who he's trying to influence. Just like listening to Rush Limbaugh. Mm-hmm. Listen carefully to what he's saying, so you know where he's trying to go, who is he talking to, and where is he trying to take people.
I'll take that to the farthest extent. Daryl, I even listened to Nancy Pelosi. The acid test, right?
I spoke with her. I met her.
Really?
Yes, at a PBS conference a couple of years ago.
Wow.
And she had to wait in the foyer as she was waiting to be introduced, and she happened to stop right in front of me, and I just said hi to her, and she asked who I was, and I told her who I was, and then I told her that that Madeline Berdalia was had mentioned to me that she had gone. I guess they'd gotten together to get some tickets to the White House egg roll or something like that, Easter egg hunt.
I wonder if Jack knew about that.
But she said, "Oh yes, she's a very good friend of mine." About Madeline. So it's my gangs here we're talking about. But your joke yesterday was too funny. It was just had me literally. I was holding my sides; they were hurting. And my jaw, my face was hurting from smiling and laughing.
The new addition to the periodic chart of the elements, Pelosium.
Yes, yeah. Pelosium.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe then Jane Flores and the Bureau of Women's Affairs could see what they could do about the oppression inflicted on Kelly Marsh here, who's just a senator, you know, but that's one of the things they could that they could look at. Something else that's been in the news here lately is the Gillette ad, and I wonder if Jane could perhaps help us somehow with the Gillette ad.
And I haven't seen that, but I've been hearing about it. Well, every day for the last several.
I'm going to. I watched it this morning, and I'm going to explain it to you. But first of all, full disclosure. I signed up with an outfit called the Dollar Shave Club a couple years ago. not because I had any political grievance with Gillette. It's just that their blades are too darn expensive, and I'm very, very Moschino. So I found that Real Joe Cruz, a Dollar Shave, cheap razor blades would be even much more important to you than they are to me, right, Real Joe Cruz?
You're right, sir. I use Gillette, and it does kill the pocketbook.
Yeah.
I shave my head and my face.
Wow. So here's a little bit about the Gillette ad. The Gillette ad takes on toxic masculinity in the Me Too era. The Me Too era rebrand, provoking a backlash. For 3 decades, Gillette promised its customers, quote, the best a man can get. An individual, acquisitive, assertive, and always clean-shaven. This was the vision of masculinity depicted in an ad that debuted in January 1989 during Super Bowl 23. The early days of the George H.W. Bush administration and the end of the Cold War, it was the year of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Promoting Gillette's top-of-the-line Atra razor, the 60-second spot portrayed variations on a single theme, a white man scoring, whether at the office, on an athletic field, or with a woman. You can see how bad this is already, right?
You know, using sex as a means to sell.
Well, of course, that was then. So the one specific location it invoked was Wall Street, the arena of the ultimate alpha male. Now Procter & Gamble, the maker of Gillette, is out with a new ad, quote, we believe, close quote, that challenges the image of masculinity it once promoted. The consumer goods company, whose net sales totaled $66.8 billion last year, has ignited a debate about gender and cultural branding. That's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? Yeah. As well as about the power exercised by multinational corporations in shaping evolving ideas about family and relationships in the hashtag Me Too era. Quote, bullying, the hashtag Me Too movement, toxic masculinity. The headlines resound as men, black and white, young and old, peer at themselves in the mirror. Is this the best a man can get? Asked the narrator of the ad, released Sunday on YouTube and shared Monday on Twitter. The scenes that unfold suggest that the answer is no and point to a new mantra. The best men can be. The new Gillette men are a community concerned more about who they are than what they can acquire. But some men want out of that community. Piers Morgan, who's not my favorite by a long shot, right? Piers Morgan, the TV presenter, blasted the ad, writing, the absurd, virtue-signaling PC guff may drive away to a company less eager to fuel the current pathetic global assault on masculinity. Right on, Piers Morgan.
I don't know. It's just advertising.
Yeah. The nearly 2-minute spot created by a New York-based advertising agency, Grey, and directed by Kim Gehrig of the UK-based production company Some Such, represents the latest corporate foray into the culture wars. Last year, Nike stock soared after it unveiled a September advertising campaign featuring Colin Kaepernick, another one of my favorites, right?
Mm-hmm.
The NFL star whose protest of police violence drew the ire of conservatives who decried his decision to kneel during the national anthem. Just as the decision by footwear and apparel company led Kaepernick credit to burn their Nike gear, the approach by Procter & Gamble incensed many viewers, but none more so than rights activists who let's see, vowed to, quote, to hashtag boycott Gillette. Christina Summers, a scholar at American Enterprise Institute who coined the term, quote, victim feminism, blamed a familiar boogeyman, the campus left. A familiar boogeyman here on Tall Tales, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And here's what Christina Summers, here's what she tweets. Help, police. Gillette has been hijacked by the Oberlin College Gender Studies Collective. And then at Gillette, boys will be boys? Isn't it time we stop excusing bad behavior? Rethink and take action by joining us at thebestmencanbe.org. If you watch the video, Boys Will Be Boys, there are a couple of boys. One of the shots is a couple of boys on the ground wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever do that when you were a kid, Daryl?
Oh, yeah.
All the time, probably,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Roughhousing, we call it.
Yes, roughhousing.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to be draw the ire of that group on the left when I say, I remember learning this little rhyme when I was a youngster. Little boys are made of dogs and snails and puppy dog tails.
Mm-hmm.
Little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. What a horrible sexist thing for a child to say, right?
It's so incorrect.
It is.
In some people's eyes, but if you want to simplify the world and teach the young roles, or if you say there are no roles, what kind of guidance is that?
It's not.
It's not.
So I suspect that nowadays, if a little boy were to say, little boys are made of dogs and snails and puppy dog tails, and little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, one of his parents, I'm not going to say his mother or father because that may be sexist, right?
Yes.
One of his parents may very well wash out his mouth with soap for saying something so politically incorrect.
Or may caution him against saying things like that lest he offend.
Of course. Yeah,
and that would be worse because that's like self-censorship.
Yeah. Offense is violence. You know, offending someone, engaging in triggering activity is a form of violence according to the left. So if I were looking at someone in the other room there, right, and I can see the top of someone's head there, you could too if you were to look, and I know exactly what sex that person is. But if I were to refer to that person, I must refer to that person as they. They are sitting at their desk.
Because you have no idea what his identity is.
Well, actually,
you can't make assumptions.
I can't see inside his head. That's right. So I don't know what he thinks he is. Right.
Right.
And by my looking at him and then referring to him with the masculine singular pronoun, I'm triggering everybody that's listening to me because I should refer to him as they, even though he's only one person.
I've been following this over the weeks, and it just seems to be a lack of guidance, a lack of candor, a lack of
it gets us
use of language.
It gets us back to this forced pretending. We must pretend that things we know are not true are true in order to fit into this whole leftist scheme of things that is ultimately will result and us having a socialist government, getting rid of capitalism, toxic white males, and all of the stuff that have been oppressing so many people for so long.
I think that it really brings out more the importance of appearance and the impression that you make, rather than digging into what is. Because it matters not what the person is, it only matters how he appears and how he presents himself. But how do you know?
True enough.
You need to dig in.
Yeah.
And who's going to take the time? So don't offend in the meantime. It's a topsy-turvy world.
It is indeed. So we got to see what uniform Jack Haddock is going to be wearing today. If he's going to be wearing the uniform of the Tall Tales Tigers or the Chamorro Land Trust Commission Cubs. He hasn't signed in, so maybe he hasn't suited up yet. Okay, so time for the 7th inning stretch. Time to stretch, Daryl.
Time to stretch.
Docomo Pacific is making the Better Together bundle even better. 2 great services plus more. Get unlimited local calls, SMS, and 20 gigs of data, plus unlimited home internet for $109 a month. Sign up today and get free installation and choose between a free Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, or $100 off select devices. Mobile plus online from Docomo Pacific. Better together. Some conditions apply. See store for details.
When we make decisions, there are consequences, hopefully positive and possibly negative. But would that be to the first, second, or third order? Say what? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we pop open the hood on a part of decision-making that isn't talked about very often.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services on 93.3 The Point.
Nothing like that 7th inning stretch, and I didn't see Jack Haddock out there in the field wearing the colors of the Tall Tales Tigers. So I guess by default we have to assume that he's playing with the Chamorro Land Trust Cubs today. And, you know, he is now the director of the Chamorro Land Trust. And I just got to tell you, Real Joe Cruz, that was an appointment that came out of left field.
Yeah, we didn't catch that one on the Tall Tales political intel line.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think it's time that I welcome back our usual suspects here, Real Joe Cruz.
Welcome back.
Okay, well, Juanita Machi is almost always the first person to sign in. She's a very good student, and she says, Juanita says, can't miss class today. Good call, Juanita. Maybe Juanita wants to be teacher's pet. Maybe that's why she's always the first one in and sits in the front row. That's good, Juanita. And then we've got Tom Van Ingen, who's ready for another lesson. Okay, and Ismael Velez, one of our regulars, is here. And Jose Martinez. Are all the new director appointments brand new creations? So far, we've only had 2 appointments to resurrected agencies, Jose. That would be the Bureau of Women's Affairs and the Agania Redevelopment Authority. We got Lynn Vince Bora Paulino, Archana Goel Longuerrero, who says, "Hi, Daryl."
Yes, I remember Archana since years ago.
So what do we got? The development of another personality cult here?
He's stealing our thunder, sir.
Yeah, really. So, you know, the theory and practice of getting a kind of a substitute host, you know, a pinch hitter, is you want him to be good, but you don't want him to be too good.
Well, I will promise to hand your show back over to you when you come back.
So you want him to be good, but not so good that people say, "Well, I hope Bob never comes back. I really like Daryl." Yeah. So okay, well I'll let you guys fight over the show during the time I'm gone, Real Joe Cruz. So then we got Jose Martinez. Daryl looks familiar. Yeah, he does. And Jose also says, "Welcome aboard." You see the development of the personality cult.
Well, you know, it's the video. It's the Facebook page.
I suppose.
It's FaceTime.
Yeah. And then Jose Martinez, unfortunately, the Bureau of Affairs is not an advocate for unborn women, as the new director is a staunch, publicly vocal advocate for abortion. I wonder if that was a criteria to be considered. Well, as you pointed out before, Jose, when we were oohing and aahing about the facts of the election, that for the first time we have 10 women in the legislature, and we have an openly homosexual lieutenant governor and a woman governor. You pointed out that we also have, for the first time in our history, an openly pro-abortion governor. So I don't know if there are dots to connect there. Maybe so.
Yep. She has to be governor for everyone now, regardless of position on abortion.
Except for those who haven't had the good fortune of being born yet.
Yes.
Okay, so going on a little bit, Jose also asked, what is the criteria to be identified as a woman? Now, that's a really tough one.
Maybe it's a shrinking class. A class that is shrinking because there are people identifying not as women but as something else.
Could be. Could be. I wonder if a transgender could be in charge of the Bureau of Women's Affairs. Then we got Ishmael Velez, Bureau of Not Having Affairs. Okay, so no, so it's Bureau of Women's Affairs, right? And we got Jose Martinez. Hello. I'd like to report an affair.
Yeah.
Yay.
And Jose Martinez again. According to the Post, Bureau of Women's Affairs needs to rebrand, make mission inclusive. Inclusive? By reason of its creation and name, it's very exclusive. Yeah, you got a good grasp of the obvious on that one, Jose. Jose also says, I predict that any pushback in this new activity for this Bureau of Women's Affairs will be labeled as sexist. So I suppose those who are listening in today are saying, Tall Tales is sexist. So be it. And we've got Ken Leon Guerrero. Considering the number of women legislators and governor, maybe we need a Bureau of Men's Affairs. Seems right. I mean, if these are the talisman by which we guide ourselves, it should be a simple head count, and when the head count indicates that there's an underrepresented group, then we need a government agency to correct that. Right, Carl?
Hey, Bob. Hey, Daryl.
Hey there, Carl.
Nice to hear you guys on the air. So I understand that Daryl's going to be taking over for a little while you go visit or go off island, I guess, right?
Exactly, Carl. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure he'll do a good job. Just don't do too good of a job, Daryl.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, I just wanted to call in and chime in about masculinity. I believe because of masculinity that we are living in a free society, and I'll tell you why. In the lead up to to World War II, in the period between World War I and World War II, a lot of leaders and countries could see that Nazi Germany was building up for something. And they were showing signs, one by one, they were starting to take territory. And of course, Imperial Japan was also building up. The intellectuals, the leftist intellectuals across Great Britain and America were encouraging their leadership, Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to completely disarm, as an example to Hitler and Tojo. They were that idealistic. These countries were building up the most powerful war machines in the history of the world, and the left was actually telling them they needed to be an example. One friend of one of these intellectuals confronted him and said, "How can you say that, to disarm? You see these people are building up immense arms." And he looked at his friend and he said, "Oh, where is your idealism?" And of course, because masculine men, a lot of them volunteers, went to war, 407,000 of them or more were killed, and many thousands, hundreds of thousands wounded. That's just American men. That doesn't count the Allies. They were able to stop the Nazis. They came within a hair of completely destroying all freedom in the world. But thanks to their masculinity, we live as free people. And, I think a lot of people don't realize that, how much we owe to men who love women very much. Many of those men who volunteered to go to war, and many of them killed and badly wounded, left behind women that they deeply loved. They carried pictures of their loved ones, their wives, their girlfriends with them all through war, and that masculinity, that love of the woman they loved, in many cases drove them on to do what they did, make those incredible sacrifices.
Let me jump in here for a second, Carl.
Sure.
As far as toxic masculinity is concerned, I'll practice a little bit of my own identity politics here. And that is that there are men who do bad things to women. There's no question about it. But the way I was brought up, in order to be a man, one of your unwritten responsibilities is to protect women. And I think I speak for just about all the men that I ever heard of, that it's a man's job to look out for women and protect women. I don't see that is toxic. I see that as something that should be encouraged and fostered. But the way this identity politics thing is going nowadays, a man who steps forward and opens a door for a woman might very well be accused of being a sexist. I could open that door myself, you sexist pig.
Oh, that'd be great. Love it.
But go ahead, Carl. I agree with you.
Yeah, my father, who came here after the war, he spent one stint in the Army Air Corps when the Army and the Air Force were, one unit. He came here after the war, and he was in security for BPM, which was a construction company that helped rebuild the island. And we were dirt poor growing up. My family didn't have a car until I was 18 years old. My father was an alcoholic. He had many flaws. He divorced his first wife, abandoned three little children, or four, And I'm sure that tormented him a great deal, and as a result, he crawled into the bottle to kind of forget his failures. But he taught me many things. The older I get, the more I love my father. Despite all his flaws, he taught me all these basic things. Say, always say please. Excuse me, I'm sorry. All these basic courtesies. And one thing he drilled into my head. He told me this when I was a little boy, and it still stands with me today. And I kept true to it thanks to him. He told me over and over. He said, "A real man never hits a woman. Never. You never hurt a woman." And this poor alcoholic man had that great of respect for women that he repeatedly drove that into my head. And I never did touch my wife in any way. And in addition, she would have beat me up if I did.
Carl, the identity politics would say that what I'm about to say is dead wrong, because it doesn't line up with the identity politics idea that it's the cultural and social conditions put in place by oppressors against the oppressed females that are the only real difference amongst them. But I would make the argument that men are hardwired to protect women, that men really don't even need to learn that from anybody. It's just part of the nature of men. Again, if you go back and examine the biological reality of the world and put aside all of the phony pretending, the two strongest human urges are self-preservation and propagation of the race, the human race, right? So men are going to look out for themselves, but they want to have children. They want to propagate the race. And each member of the human race is only half the element. It takes a man and a woman to create another person. So if a man is going to propagate the race, he has to have a woman, and at least one. And he has to protect that woman, because others may very well want to take that woman away from him. So it's almost part of the nature of being male to look out for at least one woman, if not women in general. I know that is horribly politically incorrect, because I didn't use the words oppressor and oppressed in what I said.
When I was growing up, every year in elementary school and junior high and then high school, I was like Charlie Brown. I was the Charlie Brown of my class, I guess. And I always picked out one girl in the class, and I just admired her from afar. And that kind of motivated me, to be a little bit a better person and study harder and kind of show off to this girl that I really, kind of admired from afar. And when, my wife, I had her for 30 years. She fought a valiant fight against breast cancer the last 6 years. The last year of her life almost killed me. It was just brutal. I lost 38 pounds watching that wonderful woman waste away. And I still can't get over it. I mean, I've still got pictures of her all around. You find a good partner, a good woman, and it just motivates you to do incredible things, things that I could never possibly do without her, my love for her driving me on. I did some things I never thought I could possibly do. So I believe you're right, Bob. I think we are, as men, hardwired. I think some men aren't properly trained. They misuse their...
They override that natural instinct, sometimes with the aid of drugs or alcohol, but some men are able to override their basic nature. And that, of course, is what the identity politics folks would zero in on.
Yeah, and I agree with my father. I think he taught me the right thing, that a real man does not touch a woman in anger or hit a woman. That is a terrible thing to do. And so I owe my father a great deal. Anyway, thank you very much, Bob, for allowing me to come on. Thank you, Darryl, for listening to me bloviate.
No, good to hear from you, Carl.
Very much.
Yeah, it's good talking to you as usual, Carl.
All right, and a great show. The two of you are doing a very good job. Looking forward to Darryl's tenure while you're off island, and I'm sure he'll do a stand-up job. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
So long.
Is that stand-up like stand-up comic? I'm not a stand-up comic. You're a stand-up comic. Yes, and magistrate.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up here with some of the Facebook posts. Let's see here.
Okay, you were at Andre Bynum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, that's next.
Yeah, Andre Bynum says, should be Bureau of Human Affairs. I don't know. That sounds, Andrew, that sounds kind of social justice warrior-ish.
It's also redundant. We have a whole government that's watching out for us.
Theoretically.
Or watching out for themselves, then.
Probably. And then we've got Ken back on. Maybe we need the Bureau of Gender Identity.
Maybe that's her real role.
Maybe that could be how we recast the Bureau of Women's Affairs.
Maybe it should be the gender police.
The gender czar, or czarina.
Czarina.
Oh, wait a minute. I can't say that either, can I? Yeah.
To be, so that we are politically correct.
Exactly.
If you've ever been on Jane Flores's wrong side, I mean, if you've ever been on the receiving end of her wrath, you'll remember it. So maybe she's going to be the, go around carrying the stick.
Could be. Okay, then we've got Ken Leon Guerrero after his comment about the Bureau of Gender Identity. He says, so much for streamlining government. Jesse Limtiaco says she can change the law.
I think that was when we started talking about Kelly Marsh.
Yeah, and then Jesse Limtiaco says, in my opinion, she has children with a Chamorro man, then she should be able to sit on the commission.
Chamorro by injection.
Well, I suppose, but, there was a time, in fact, we can talk about this, I'll talk about this on Monday, that we judged a person by the content of his character, not the color of his skin. But I guess that was then, and this is now.
Well, again, on Monday, we're going to be talking about that again on Monday.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Okay, so we're coming up on the home stretch here. Home stretch, I'm going to finish up on the Facebook comments and I suppose rattle on a little bit more about the Bureau of Women's Affairs.
Welcome to Subway's ad for the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich. How would you like it?
I would like it to predict my future.
My pleasure.
I see. Your future, a delicious moment in the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich with steak, jalapeno peppers, and Chipotle Southwest sauce. Wait, I foresee an imminent spell that is going to entice you. It's the crunchy bread with sunflower seeds, which provides an enchanting flavor. Don't miss it, and be mindful. The portal of the Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich is open for a limited time only. Subway, make it what you want.
Are you not getting paid what you're worth? Or not reaching your full potential at your job? If you're pioneering, adventurous, competitive, love talking to people, and want to earn $100,000 per year, sell cars on U.S. military bases with Military Auto Source. Start on Guam, stay on Guam, or move to Japan or Korea. To see if you qualify, visit maseastasiarecruiting.com. Military Auto Source, helping you reach your full potential.
So that's we're heading down the home stretch on Tall Tales now. I've got about 9 minutes more before the Real Joe Cruz starts playing that song that I like so much, Ravel's Bolero. So I'm going to finish up the Facebook comments and probably talk a little bit more about the Bureau of Women's Affairs. And I have yet to award the coveted Blue Star to either editorial. So I guess I've got to do that before the end of the program today. No card today. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
With Demi Cotney that we never got to the card. Okay, so let's see. Where did I leave off here? Jesse Limtiaco, Jose Martinez. The only colonialist I'm concerned about are those tiny red ants, okay? Ishmael Velez. They are coming after the Marines next because they are looking for a few good men. And I wonder if the Marine Corps has been forced to abandon that recruitment poster. I'll never forget that recruitment poster in front of the post office in Elkhorn, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a young, handsome Marine in his dress blue uniform, right? And across the top, Marine Corps wants a few good men.
I thought that was dealt with in the form of a movie. There was a movie about...
Yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Yes.
Yeah, a few good men. You can't handle the truth. Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
No, there's another one about the recruit, the woman who joined the Marines.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah, it's about the same time period.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was about a woman who joined and she had to make the cut. I can't remember the actress's name. I'm not good with movies. But I think they already challenged the recruitment poster. And it's too bad.
Oh, okay.
It's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that would make a lot of sense. That historically, back 60-some years ago, back in the old Corps, there were women in the Marine Corps, but they were called WMs, and they were kind of the functional equivalent of the WAC, Women's Army Corps.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't integrated into the full body of the Army or the Marine Corps. They were a separate entity off to the side. And women Marines handled, like maybe working at the base gas station or Remington Raiders or something like that. But then I think in 1972, the Defense Department changed the rules, and women Marines became Marines like every other Marine. They were given military occupation specialties, etc. And we've gotten up to the point now where we've more of this pretending, right, that we pretend that women make good combat soldiers. And it just isn't, it's not reality. We all know that men are, as a general rule, stronger than women, and perhaps better able to withstand the rigors of combat. Now we've played with a little bit, sent women to ranger school and things like that. On the other hand, there have been good results from using women in many, if not most, of the military occupational specialties. But it wouldn't surprise me at all to find out that some militant group of females would take issue with the slogan, the Marine Corps is looking for a few good men.
Well, I would imagine that when we have an increased Marine presence on island, there will be many women looking at those Marines looking for a few good men.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Okay, well, let me go back here to the rest of the Facebook comments here. I've got Tess Laguana. Dave Duenas, are you watching this? Okay. And then I've got Jose Martinez, who's got a link to a Facebook post. Let's see what that is.
I'm trying to see where you are here. I see Lee Stolley and
here's
Albert.
A Facebook post from Michael San Nicolas. History made today. Guam secures the first ever seat on exclusive influential congressional committee. Congressman Michael at FQ San Nicolas has been nominated to serve on the House Financial Services Committee of the 116th Congress. Well, we'll pick that up tomorrow. Jose, thanks for bringing that to my attention. And let's see. Yeah, Lee Stolley, great show as always. Thank you, Lee. Jack Haddock, play ball. I'm still here, Coach. All right, so go ahead, Jack. As I said a little earlier, that appointment to the Chamorro Land Trust Commission executive director position really came out of left field, and it's a really, really tough job. I hope you don't strike out, Jack.
It's a lot of work
coming
up. And all we can do is hope that he is up to that task. It's a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely. So you're going to need your fastball for that one, Jack. And out of left field, because if I had anything to say about it, you'd be the director of Parks and Recreation, Jack. Because everybody knows that Gifino Chamorro na I Palabran Hatik, baseball.
You see, you got a listener in France.
Yeah, it's Pierre. And Albert Eliasson, all this talk about Marines, Semper Fi, Juanita, Pierre, Tarine, Jack Haddock, I will still tune in. It's okay, Jack. And Pierre says, bonjour, Monsieur Rocheret. And Pierre says, whoa, you have a listener all the way in France. That's part of our international, nothing new there, Pierre, part of our international radio listening audience. So I hear the plaintive strains of Ravel's Bolero, and I'm going to have to take this opportunity, Pierre, to say au revoir. Till tomorrow.
Thank you all.